The palace of the alien kingdom was unlike anything a human had ever seen. Its towers were made of crystal-like structures that reflected the sunlight in dazzling patterns, and the streets shimmered with strange lights that seemed to float above the ground. Every surface, every structure, even the water in the fountains seemed alive with energy, giving the city an ethereal, almost magical feeling. The people who lived there moved gracefully, their skin often shimmering in soft colors, and their clothes flowed like liquid. It was a world that humans could only imagine in stories, a kingdom that seemed untouched by ordinary life. Among all the wonders of the palace, the alien princess stood out even more. She was tall and elegant, her movements perfectly balanced and full of grace. Her eyes, unlike those of humans, held colors that changed with her emotions, shifting from calm blues to bright greens whenever she felt joy or excitement. Everyone in the kingdom admired her, not just for her beauty but for her intelligence. She was curious, quick to learn, and had a sense of fairness that even the king, her father, sometimes lacked. She could solve problems that had troubled her people for years and was known for listening carefully to everyone, no matter how small their role in the kingdom. Yet the court, the people who advised the king and managed palace affairs, often teased her. They loved pranks and jokes, and they found amusement in creating strange situations. One day the court decided to play a joke that they believed would embarrass the princess and provide entertainment for everyone in the kingdom. They had arranged for a human visitor from Earth to be paired with her. Humans were considered curious but fragile beings in the alien world, and the court thought this would be a perfect chance to humiliate both the princess and the human. The human, named Adam, had arrived on the planet as part of a peaceful cultural exchange program. He was intelligent, kind, and adventurous, but he had never imagined encountering beings so different from himself. The first time he entered the palace, he was completely overwhelmed. The halls were taller than any building he had seen on Earth, filled with glowing walls and moving pathways that responded to his footsteps. Machines hummed softly, and holographic guides floated beside him, explaining things he barely understood. When the court revealed the plan to pair Adam with the princess, he was confused. He didn't know if it was an honor or a joke. He had heard that the princess was admired and respected, and he feared he would look foolish in front of her. The court, on the other hand, laughed openly at the idea, certain that Adam would stumble over the alien customs, say something wrong, or make the princess angry. They had imagined it all as a show, a form of entertainment at someone else's expense. The princess, however, behaved differently from what the court expected. Instead of mocking Adam or acting aloof, she greeted him politely, offering him a place to rest and helping him adjust to the strange surroundings. She explained some of the basic rules of the palace and taught him how to move along the energy pathways without causing disruptions. Adam was surprised by her kindness. He had prepared for ridicule, but found respect instead. She treated him like a guest, not a fool. Over the first few days, Adam and the princess spent time learning about each other's worlds. Adam explained simple things about Earth, the way humans ate, the way they communicated, and the small joys of life like walking under the sun or listening to music. The princess listened carefully, her eyes widening with interest as he described things she had never imagined. She laughed at his stories and asked questions that showed a deep curiosity, not just polite interest. The court continued to watch, expecting the human to fail or make a mistake that would amuse them. But Adam was quick to learn. Though he sometimes stumbled, he approached everything with honesty and effort. When he mispronounced the names of alien flowers or misunderstood a ritual, the princess corrected him gently, never laughing at him in a cruel way. She explained, demonstrated, and sometimes even joined him in trying something new for the first time. Gradually, the court realized that their plan was not going as they had imagined. Adam was not embarrassed, and the princess did not appear humiliated. Instead, they were forming a bond, one that the court could not understand. The princess enjoyed Adam's company, not because of the prank, but because she genuinely found his perspective refreshing. Humans were so different, yet their emotions were simple and direct in a way that her world rarely allowed. Adam admired her intelligence and grace, but he also appreciated her kindness and humor. One afternoon, the princess decided to take Adam on a walk through the palace gardens, a place few humans had ever been. The gardens were enormous, with glowing plants that emitted soft light at night and flowers that sang when the wind passed over them. Streams of water ran in patterns that reflected the stars above, and bridges seemed to float over the air as if gravity had no power there. Adam was amazed, but he tried to keep his composure, knowing the court would be watching. The princess noticed his awe and smiled. "It is okay to be amazed," she said. "This world is not simple. Even I feel small sometimes." Adam nodded, feeling a strange sense of comfort. He realized that she did not see him as inferior, and that gave him confidence. They talked about Earth, about the places he loved, and about simple things he missed, like feeling rain on his face. The princess listened intently, fascinated by the different perspective. She had read about Earth, but hearing it from someone who lived there brought it to life in a way books could not. Days passed, and Adam began to understand more about alien society. He learned how to bow properly, how to interact with court members, and even how to handle some minor diplomatic tasks. The princess guided him patiently, correcting mistakes without judgment. In return, Adam helped the princess see things differently. His ideas were sometimes simple, sometimes bold, but they made her think. She began to enjoy his company more and more, appreciating his honesty and his ability to see beauty in small, overlooked things. The court watched all of this with increasing confusion. Their joke had not worked. Instead of humiliation, they witnessed respect, curiosity, and a growing sense of connection. Some began to whisper, questioning whether the prank could backfire. How could a human and the princess, from such different worlds, form a bond? It did not fit with their ideas of order or tradition. Despite the whispers, the princess and Adam continued their interactions, learning from one another and growing closer in ways the court could not predict. They shared meals, practiced rituals together, and even worked on small projects to improve the palace's gardens and living spaces. Adam's presence brought a sense of simplicity and warmth to the palace, while the princess's guidance helped him grow in confidence. One evening, as they walked under the glowing trees, Adam spoke softly. "I never imagined a place like this," he said, "and I never imagined I would meet someone like you." The princess looked at him, her eyes reflecting the soft lights around them. She did not laugh or dismiss his words. She simply nodded, recognizing the honesty in his feelings. In that moment, the bond that had begun as a joke became something real. It was subtle, quiet, and powerful. Neither the court nor the king could see the depth of what was growing, but it did not matter. The princess and Adam were discovering that connection did not depend on appearance, origin, or expectation. It depended on respect, kindness, and the willingness to see another being as truly equal. The first part of their story ends here, with the seeds of something extraordinary planted. A human and an alien princess, paired in jest, were beginning to understand each other in ways that no one could have imagined. What started as a courtly joke was evolving into a bond that would challenge traditions, expectations, and perhaps even the future of the kingdom itself. One quiet morning, the princess felt something unusual, something she had never experienced before. At first, she thought it was nothing, a small change in her body or her mood. But as the day went on, it became clearer. She was pregnant. The realization hit her like a sudden wave, and for a moment she could barely think. She knew immediately that this news would change everything. The kingdom, the court, and even the relationship between her and Adam would never be the same. She called Adam to her side and shared the news. He was stunned. His mind raced with questions and concerns, but above all, he felt a deep sense of responsibility and care. He had not expected this, but he realized immediately that he would support the princess in every way he could. The princess, in turn, felt a mixture of fear and courage. She knew the court would not take the news well. They had paired her with a human as a joke, and now that the pairing had resulted in life, she could already imagine the shock, the whispers, and the anger that would follow. When the news spread through the palace, reactions were immediate and intense. Courtiers gasped, guards exchanged worried glances, and advisors whispered frantically among themselves. Some were horrified, fearing scandal or political consequences. Others were curious, unsure what to think of the unprecedented situation. No one had ever imagined that a human and the princess could produce a child. The palace, which had always valued tradition, was suddenly confronted with a situation that challenged every expectation. Some nobles argued that the princess should be separated from Adam immediately. They claimed that allowing the relationship to continue would be dangerous for the kingdom's reputation. Others were more cautious, suggesting that perhaps this child could be seen as a bridge between two worlds, though even they admitted it was risky. The palace, which had always prided itself on order, was thrown into chaos. Through all of this, the princess remained calm. She understood the weight of her situation but refused to hide or abandon the child. She had always been brave in the face of challenges, and this was no different. She called the court together and spoke with clarity and authority. "This child is a part of me," she said. "It is not a joke, a mistake, or a scandal. It is life, and life must be protected and cherished." Her words were firm, yet kind, and they carried the power of truth that even the most stubborn courtiers could not ignore. Adam stood by her side, offering his support. Though he was from another world, he had learned much about the alien kingdom and its people. He understood the fears and prejudices of the court, but also recognized the importance of standing with the princess. "I will care for both of you," he said. "I will not turn away. Whatever challenges we face, we will face them together." His sincerity and calm determination impressed even the skeptics. The princess felt a deep sense of relief, knowing that she was not alone in this journey. The days that followed were tense. The princess had to attend meetings with advisors who questioned her decisions, guard her privacy from curious eyes, and navigate the strange mixture of admiration and judgment from the court. Yet she remained composed. She focused on preparing for the child, learning everything she could about pregnancy and childbirth in her species, and understanding how a human child might grow within her alien body. Adam accompanied her everywhere, assisting with research, practicing care routines, and learning how to protect and support her. Their bond deepened in ways that surprised them both. They shared quiet moments when the palace was asleep, talking about the child they were expecting, imagining what it would be like to hold the baby, and planning how to raise it in a world that might not fully understand or accept them. They laughed at small things, such as imagining what the court would say when they discovered the child could do things neither human nor alien could fully explain. They also shared fears, admitting vulnerabilities and finding comfort in each other's presence. Outside the palace, the kingdom began to notice subtle changes as well. Citizens whispered about the princess's unusual behavior, the way she smiled more often, and the human who now accompanied her everywhere. Some were skeptical, wondering if this pairing was truly appropriate. Others were intrigued, seeing the potential for something new and positive. Rumors spread quickly, as they always did, and the palace found itself under a mix of scrutiny and quiet fascination. Within the palace walls, the princess began to show signs of her pregnancy. She grew more protective of herself and more attentive to her health. Adam learned quickly how to assist her, preparing meals rich in nutrients, helping her with gentle exercises, and ensuring she rested whenever needed. He studied ancient texts, learning about alien biology and customs surrounding childbirth. Though it was overwhelming, Adam was determined to do everything he could to support her, and the princess appreciated his dedication and care. Even the court began to notice the transformation in the human. Adam, who had once been seen as a clumsy outsider, was now recognized for his sincerity, intelligence, and devotion. He had earned a quiet respect from many courtiers who had initially doubted him. The princess, too, grew stronger. The challenges forced her to assert herself more, to speak with authority and compassion, and to stand firm in the face of criticism. Together, they became a unit that could not easily be dismissed. Yet not all reactions were positive. Some traditionalists grew more vocal, insisting that the princess's actions threatened the kingdom's stability. They warned the king that allowing this human to remain close to the princess could set a dangerous precedent. The king, while proud of his daughter, was concerned. He called Adam to speak privately, testing his intentions and loyalty. Adam answered, honestly, expressing his love and commitment to the princess and the child. The king, after careful consideration, realized that Adam's sincerity could not be questioned and that the princess's courage was genuine. Slowly, he began to accept the situation, though he knew it would take time for the rest of the court to do the same. The princess and Adam also faced personal challenges. There were moments of doubt and worry, nights when they questioned whether they were ready for what was coming. The weight of expectation, the scrutiny of the court, and the uncertainty of what the future held sometimes made them feel small, yet they always returned to each other for comfort and reassurance. They held hands in the palace gardens, walked under glowing trees, and reminded each other that they were not alone. Each shared smile, each gentle word, strengthened their resolve. As the weeks passed, the princess's pregnancy progressed, and the court could no longer ignore it. The whispers turned into discussions, and some courtiers reluctantly acknowledged that the princess's decision to embrace the child was brave. They began to see that life, regardless of its origin, deserved protection. Slowly, a shift began to happen in the palace. Where there had once been mockery and fear, there was now cautious respect. Some even offered assistance, preparing rooms for the child and suggesting ways to make the palace safer and more comfortable. The princess and Adam continued their studies, learning about both human and alien traditions related to raising a child. They experimented with small toys, devices, and exercises, trying to prepare for the unique challenges that a child of both worlds would face. They spoke of values they wanted to teach, lessons of kindness, understanding, and courage. The child, even before birth, had already brought a sense of purpose and hope that neither had expected. Despite the growing acceptance of some, tension remained. Certain factions in the court still whispered, questioning whether the princess had made a mistake or whether the kingdom could handle such an unprecedented situation. The princess, however, refused to be intimidated. She knew that fear could not guide her decisions. She had chosen to protect life, to stand by Adam, and to embrace the unknown. Her courage inspired many, and her determination reminded the kingdom that true strength came from standing by one's principles. In private moments, Adam and the princess often reflected on how far they had come. What had begun as a joke had grown into a profound partnership. They had faced ridicule, uncertainty, and fear, yet they had emerged stronger, more connected, and ready to face the future together. They spoke of dreams for their child, imagining a life where differences between species did not divide but united. They pictured a future where love, courage, and understanding could overcome tradition, expectation, and prejudice. By the end of this period, the princess's pregnancy had changed the palace in subtle but meaningful ways. The court, the guards, and even the citizens had begun to recognize that life once thought impossible was now a reality. The human and the princess had formed a bond that could not be ignored, a partnership that was respected for its courage, dedication, and authenticity. What had started as a joke had grown into something extraordinary, something that would shape the future of the kingdom in ways no one could yet fully understand. The story, at this point, was no longer about a prank or a courtly joke. It was about courage, love, and the unexpected consequences of genuine connection. The princess and Adam had faced the unknown together, and in doing so, they had proven that life, in all its forms, was worth embracing. They had discovered a truth that even the most rigid traditions could not deny, that bonds formed from respect, trust, and care could. Days turned into weeks, and the time Adam spent in the palace grew longer. At first, he had been cautious, walking carefully through the halls and trying not to make mistakes. But as he spent more time with the princess, he began to feel more comfortable. The palace, which had seemed so intimidating at first, started to feel like a place where he could belong, even if only in a small way. The princess's guidance helped him understand more about the alien world, and in turn he began to see her not just as a royal figure, but as someone with thoughts, feelings, and dreams much like his own. The princess enjoyed spending time with Adam in ways that she had never experienced before. She was used to people bowing, agreeing, or fearing her presence, but Adam treated her differently. He listened to her as a person, asked questions that showed curiosity rather than obedience, and expressed his own thoughts openly. This was unusual in her world, where hierarchy and tradition often dictated every conversation. Adam's honesty was refreshing, and it made her feel a sense of freedom she had never felt before. Their days began to follow a rhythm that was new for both of them. Mornings were spent walking through the palace gardens, where the alien plants seemed almost alive. Some of the flowers would open only when someone approached, their petals glowing with soft light. Streams ran in patterns that reflected the stars, and the air smelled faintly of a mixture of spices and flowers, a scent that was calming and uplifting at the same time. Adam learned to move through these gardens carefully, not to disturb the delicate balance, but also to enjoy the beauty around him. Afternoons were often filled with lessons. The princess taught Adam about alien history, technology, and customs. She explained how the kingdom had survived for centuries, and how the people valued knowledge, honor, and respect. Adam listened intently, asking questions and sharing stories from Earth that were sometimes funny, sometimes strange to her. He told her about human inventions, their struggles, and the simple joys they found in everyday life. She laughed at some of his tales and was amazed at others. These lessons were no longer one-sided. They became conversations with both learning from each other. The court continued to watch, although they were growing increasingly puzzled. They had expected to see the human embarrassed, the princess irritated, or some sort of dramatic failure. Instead, they saw respect, cooperation, and even hints of friendship. Some of the courtiers began to whisper among themselves, unsure whether their prank had gone too far. One noble remarked, "Perhaps we underestimated the human and the princess." Another shook their head, saying, "No, it cannot be. This is a trick. Something must be hidden." But there was no trick. Adam was genuinely learning and growing, and the princess genuinely enjoyed his company. One day she took him to a library that stretched for miles, a place few humans had ever been allowed to enter. The walls were filled with glowing books that contained knowledge of not only her world, but of many other worlds across galaxies. Adam's eyes widened as he wandered between shelves, touching books that responded to his presence, opening to pages with images and sounds that seemed alive. The princess watched him with quiet amusement. "You are fascinated," she said softly. "I have seen many people in this library, but few react with such wonder. You remind me why I love learning." Adam smiled. "It is amazing, truly. On Earth, libraries are large, yes, but they are quiet, and the books are just paper. Here, it is like the stories themselves are alive." The princess nodded, pleased that he could appreciate it. She realized that his perspective was different from anyone she had known, and it made her world feel new and exciting again. In addition to learning, they also shared moments of fun. One evening, the princess showed Adam how to use a small floating device that allowed them to glide over the palace gardens. At first, Adam was clumsy, struggling to stay balanced, and he bumped into small streams and glowing flowers. The princess laughed, a sound so soft and musical that Adam could not help but smile. She guided him gently, helping him balance and teaching him how to move with the currents of energy that flowed through the palace. By the end of the evening, Adam was gliding smoothly, and they both laughed as they raced through the gardens, their voices echoing softly in the air. Over time, the princess began to trust Adam more. She shared stories of her childhood, memories that she had rarely spoken about. She told him about the pressure of being a princess, the loneliness of always needing to be perfect, and the challenges of balancing duty with personal desire. Adam listened without judgment, offering comfort and understanding. For the first time, she felt that she could share her true self with someone without fear. Adam, too, began to feel a sense of belonging. The palace, which had once seemed overwhelming, no longer intimidated him. The princess's kindness and guidance had allowed him to grow, and he started to see himself not just as a guest, but as someone who mattered in this strange, beautiful world. He also began to notice subtle changes in himself. He was calmer, more confident, and more open to new experiences. The alien world, with all its wonders and challenges, had changed him in ways he could not yet fully understand. As their bond deepened, small acts of care became common between them. The princess would prepare meals that were specially designed for humans, combining alien ingredients in ways that were both nutritious and tasty. Adam, in turn, would find small ways to help her with tasks, carrying books, adjusting machinery, or simply offering a hand when she needed support. Their relationship was becoming a partnership built on respect, trust, and genuine affection. However, the court remained wary. They had not intended for a friendship to form, let alone something deeper. Some whispered that the princess might be falling for the human, which they considered impossible and inappropriate. Others were simply confused. This was meant to be a joke, one noble said. How can it have turned into this? The uncertainty created tension in the palace, but neither the princess nor Adam let it affect them. They focused on each other and on learning from one another, knowing that the opinions of others could not define their connection. One quiet evening, the princess and Adam sat by a glowing fountain in the palace courtyard. The water shimmered, with soft light, casting gentle reflections on their faces. Adam spoke softly. I never imagined I would feel comfortable here. I thought I would always be an outsider. The princess looked at him, her eyes reflecting the water's glow. You are not an outsider, she said. You have brought a new perspective to my life, and I am grateful for it. Adam smiled, feeling warmth he had not known he could feel in such a strange world. They spent the night talking about their dreams. Adam shared his hope of helping people on Earth, perhaps bringing some of the knowledge he had gained from the alien world to improve life back home. The princess spoke of her desire to make her kingdom more open, to learn from other worlds, and to create a future where differences were celebrated rather than feared. In that quiet night, they realized that their goals, though from different worlds, aligned in many ways. As the days passed, their bond became stronger and more apparent. They communicated with ease, sharing not only knowledge but emotions, fears, and hopes. The court began to notice a change in the princess. She laughed more often, seemed more relaxed, and carried herself with a sense of quiet happiness. Adam, too, was growing in confidence, navigating the alien world with skill and grace. The court could no longer mock the human, for he had proven himself in ways that surprised even the most skeptical nobles. By the end of this period, the princess and Adam were no longer simply the subjects of a joke. They had become companions, friends, and equals in a strange, beautiful world. Their connection was a quiet rebellion against the court's expectations, a reminder that relationships cannot be dictated by tradition or appearance. What started as a pairing for amusement had grown into something meaningful, something neither of them had anticipated, but both had come to value deeply. This was the beginning of a journey that would challenge the norms of the kingdom and change the lives of everyone involved. Their bond, formed in unexpected circumstances, was building a foundation that would soon face challenges and surprises far greater than either of them had imagined. And yet, in those quiet days filled with learning, laughter, and discovery, they had found a rare and precious connection, a connection that promised to shape the future in ways that the court could never foresee. The day finally arrived when the princess went into labor. The palace had been prepared meticulously, with every room, tool, and caretaker ready to assist. Adam stayed by her side, holding her hand and guiding her through the process with calm confidence. Though the procedure was challenging, their preparation, patience, and unwavering trust in each other carried them through. The palace watched silently, anxious but respectful, as the princess faced one of the most important moments of her life. When the child was born, the entire kingdom held its breath. The baby was healthy, vibrant, and strong, a unique blend of human and alien traits that reflected both parents. The child's skin had a subtle glow, their eyes held colors that shifted gently like the princess's, and their small hands reached instinctively for Adam and the princess. It was a moment of wonder, proof that life could surpass expectation in ways no one had imagined. The initial reactions in the court were mixed. Some were amazed, some skeptical, but many were moved by the undeniable truth of the child's existence. The princess held the baby close, her face radiant with love and pride, while Adam supported her with tender care. The court, witnessing their devotion and the miracle of life, began to soften. Even the most skeptical nobles could not deny the courage, love, and unity that had brought this moment into being. As days turned into weeks, the palace adjusted to the presence of the child. Adam and the princess learned to care for the baby together, combining human methods with alien traditions. They discovered that the child was unusually perceptive, reacting to both Adam and the princess with recognition and curiosity. Small smiles, gestures, and sounds were celebrated as milestones, and every achievement became a shared joy between the couple. The court continued to observe, slowly acknowledging the reality they had once dismissed as impossible. Those who had opposed Adam began to see his sincerity, his devotion, and his intelligence. The princess's courage inspired them as well, showing that leadership was not only about authority, but about love, wisdom, and the willingness to challenge outdated rules. The baby became a symbol of hope, unity, and the possibilities that arose when people chose trust over fear. Outside the palace, citizens celebrated the birth of the child. Stories spread across the kingdom about the bravery of the princess, the devotion of the human, and the miracle of a new life bridging two worlds. People who had once doubted the princess began to admire her even more. Young children asked about the baby, elders discussed the changes in tradition, and even neighboring kingdoms expressed curiosity and respect. The birth had created a ripple of change that extended far beyond the palace walls. Adam and the princess continued to nurture their child with care and love. They shared lessons about life, kindness, and courage, teaching by example how to navigate the world with understanding and empathy. They laughed together, comforted each other, and faced small challenges with teamwork and patience. The palace, once a place of tension and fear, now felt alive with joy, warmth, and hope. In private moments, Adam and the princess reflected on how far they had come. What had begun as a jest, a foolish court experiment, had transformed into something extraordinary. They had faced ridicule, doubt, and fear, yet they had created a family built on love, trust, and courage. The child, as a living testament to their bond, reminded them every day of the power of connection and the beauty of embracing the unknown. The princess spoke often of the future. "This child is a bridge," she said softly. "A bridge between worlds, between ideas, between people. Our kingdom must learn to see not only differences but possibilities." Adam nodded, sharing her vision. Together they dreamed of a kingdom where understanding, compassion, and courage guided every decision, and where no child would ever feel that their origin limited their potential. Even the king, once hesitant, recognized the importance of the moment. He praised Adam for his dedication and bravery, acknowledging the love and commitment that had carried them through unprecedented challenges. The court, slowly but surely, adapted to this new reality, learning to respect and even support the family that had once seemed impossible. The story of the princess, Adam, and their child became a legend in the kingdom. It was told in hushed tones and excited whispers, inspiring generations to come. People remembered the courage it took to defy expectation, the wisdom it took to embrace the unknown, and the power of love to overcome fear and tradition. What had begun as a joke had become a profound story of hope, unity, and the possibilities of life itself. By the end, the princess and Adam were no longer seen as unusual or controversial. They were leaders, parents, and symbols of what could happen when courage and love guided actions. The child, a living reminder of this union, represented the future, a future where differences were celebrated, fears were faced, and life, in all its forms, was cherished and protected. The news of the princess's pregnancy had spread through the kingdom like wildfire, and the court remained tense. While some courtiers had begun to accept the situation quietly, many traditionalists continued to resist. They whispered about scandal, dishonor, and the dangers of allowing a human to remain so close to the royal family. Yet, for the princess and Adam, These concerns only strengthened their resolve. They had faced ridicule, and now they were determined to face prejudice with courage. The princess began to take a more active role in confronting the court's opposition. She held meetings with advisors, presenting her reasoning with clarity and calm authority. "This child is life itself," she said. "It is not a threat, nor is it a mistake. To reject it is to reject the principles of compassion and understanding that this kingdom values." Her words were firm, and while some courtiers murmured in disagreement, others were silently inspired. They had never seen a princess so brave, in the face of criticism, and it forced many to reconsider their positions. Adam, meanwhile, began to learn the complexities of alien politics. Though he was human, he quickly realized that the kingdom operated on layers of tradition, expectation, and authority. At first it was overwhelming, but he approached each situation with honesty and humility. He answered questions, explained his intentions, and never acted out of fear or pride. His sincerity gradually earned him respect, even from those who had doubted him the most. As the princess's pregnancy progressed, preparations for the child began. The palace was transformed to accommodate the future arrival. Rooms were cleaned, decorated, and equipped with devices designed to support a hybrid child. Adam studied alien technology, learning how to care for the princess and prepare for the birth. He consulted books, observed caretakers, and practiced using various instruments that would ensure both mother and child were safe. The princess admired his dedication, realizing that his willingness to learn and adapt reflected his deep care for her and the baby. The princess also began to challenge old traditions in subtle but meaningful ways. She allowed Adam to participate in ceremonies that had previously been reserved for royalty, insisting that his contribution mattered. She spoke openly about equality, emphasizing that respect should not depend on origin or status. While some traditionalists protested, a growing number of supporters admired her courage. They began to see that the princess was not simply acting out of rebellion, but out of genuine principle. Despite the tension, there were moments of joy and discovery. Adam and the princess spent hours exploring the palace gardens, teaching each other new ways to connect with the world. Adam learned how to communicate with certain plants that responded to sound and touch, while the princess discovered the beauty of simple human gestures, like holding hands or laughing together in the open air. These moments reminded them both of why their bond mattered and why they were willing to face opposition for the sake of their growing family. The child's presence, even before birth, began to influence those around them. Guards and palace staff noticed changes in the princess's demeanor. She became calmer, more focused, yet still radiant. Adam's patience and care reflected on the court, showing that his intentions were sincere. Slowly the kingdom began to understand that this union was not a joke or scandal, but a partnership built on respect, courage, and love. However, challenges remained. Some members of the court continued to plot against Adam, spreading rumors and questioning his loyalty. Others whispered that the princess was being foolish or reckless. Yet each time opposition arose, the princess and Adam faced it together. They held private strategy meetings, prepared for public challenges, and supported each other through moments of doubt. Their unity became a symbol of strength, showing the court that fear and tradition could not easily break genuine connection. The princess's family, including the king, began to play a more active role. While initially hesitant, the king recognized the sincerity of Adam's devotion and the courage of his daughter. He began to offer guidance to both of them, helping them navigate political concerns while still respecting their autonomy. The combination of royal authority and personal conviction created a subtle shift in the court, gradually turning skeptics into allies. Outside the palace, news of the unusual pairing spread among the citizens. Some were skeptical, some curious, but many were inspired. They admired the courage of the princess and the human, seeing in them a reminder that love, respect, and understanding could overcome fear and prejudice. Small acts of support began to appear, from messages of encouragement to citizens offering help with preparations for the child. The kingdom was slowly learning that difference did not mean division. Adam and the princess continued to grow closer. They spent quiet evenings discussing values they wanted to instill in their child: kindness, empathy, curiosity, and courage. They imagined a future where the child could move freely between worlds, bridging differences and bringing people together. The princess shared her hope that the kingdom would one day see this child not as an anomaly but as a symbol of unity. Adam, too, shared his dreams of helping both his own people and the alien kingdom learn from one another. Together, they built a vision that was bigger than themselves. Even as tension remained within the court, the couple found strength in each other. They celebrated small victories: a courtesan who began to support Adam, a noble who quietly offered assistance, and even minor traditions that were adapted to allow Adam and the princess to work together. Each small success reinforced their belief that change was possible, that courage and love could reshape even the most rigid traditions. In private moments, they reflected on the journey that had brought them here. What had begun as a joke had become a profound partnership. They had faced ridicule, fear, and doubt, yet their bond had only grown stronger. Their experiences together had taught them patience, resilience, and the importance of trust. They realized that the challenges ahead, including the birth of their child, would require all of these qualities, and they felt ready. By the end of this period, the princess and Adam were no longer simply subjects of courtly curiosity or gossip. They were leaders in their own right, demonstrating courage, love, and determination. Their bond had become a quiet revolution, showing that genuine connection could defy expectation, tradition, and even prejudice. What had started as a jest was now a source of inspiration for the entire kingdom, a reminder that courage and compassion could change the world in unexpected ways.